Hello, I am the Jordan coach of the Virginia Bike Volts. Welcome to the Draftables, a series in which I'll indulge my PowerPoint obsession. Now, I will break down elements of VGC Draft League and try to impart what I've learned from playing this wonderfully complicated game. This week is all about offense. It's about aggression and power and all the things that Galarian Zapdos has, which I'll sometimes refer to as Gapdos or just Zapdos. It'll be a little bit about Zapdos' unique gifts and why it is a top-tier offensive mon that is generally underestimated, I think. But more so how Gapdos is emblematic of an overall offensive playstyle that is extremely threatening, hard to beat consistently, and just generally a recipe for success in Draft League. Side note, I did notice more people than usual watched the last Draftables episode, which is kind of exciting. Did you share the video? Did the algorithm bless me? I'm not sure, but I want this to be some of the best analytical Draft League content out there. There's a lot of team builders, but there's not a lot of let's dig into it and let's figure some things out. So if you could give this a like, I'd really appreciate it. I'd love to show this to as many people as I can. But let's get into Gapdos and start by talking about what it has before we go for some of the larger conclusions. What Gapdos has is great stats. Amazing stats. All good stats. Average stats for fully evolved Pokemon are 80, and Zapdos has above 80 in every single stat. It's gifted that way. It has very strong typing for attacking, fighting and flying, and we'll dig into exactly why, but it also has enough variety. So this is a top-tier Pokemon. This is a mon. My perception is that people are sleeping on Gapdos because most draft leagues over the past couple of years have been Dynamax, and Zapdos struggles a bit in Dynamax. It is the Max Airstream mon that loses to other Max Airstream mons. It has been undrafted in my home league, the VBLS, the past 3 seasons, and it was on past 4 seasons. It was just played in the last week of season 3. So it's a mon that's, I think, been generally underappreciated, but as soon as the Dynamax goes away, which it is, it's not going to be in the next generation, I'm pretty sure, and most draft leagues from here to the end of the year are going to be non-Dynamax. Zapdos is going to fully utilize its great gifts outside of Dynamax. I think it's going to be a new top tier that everybody's got to respect. We got to start with these stab moves. Same type attack bonus. Zapdos has the best pair of stabs I've ever seen. I can't think of any better. Honestly. These are 2 100% accurate, 120 base power stab moves. And this combination of fighting and flying hits half of all Pokemon super effectively, or nearly half. It hits virtually every Pokemon, either neutrally or super effectively. This is 17 out of 1,000 Pokemon. This is including different forms and whatnot. But the combination of fighting and flying is virtually unresisted by everyone and very, very powerful. So you can just use the stab moves. Honestly, put Close Combat and Brave Bird on every single Gapdos set and you'll do pretty fine. But it has other stab moves which are really great. A unique move, Thunderous Kick, which not only doesn't have downsides of reducing your defense, but also cuts their defense. So it's a good move for a more bulky Zapdos rather than an all-or-nothing Zapdos. Acrobatics is really good. No downside flying move. Once you consume an item, it's pretty powerful. Potentially some other weird ones. But Zapdos has just enough to round out a top-tier Pokemon. You can do great with just fighting and flying moves, but for the few mons that resist it are mostly electric types, and you just hit them all with Stomping Tantrum. Throw Chop can be situationally useful. Blaziken to destroy a rogue Caesar or a Escavalier. And then it's got that one speed control move. It's way better to have one speed control move than 0. And so this is dealing good stab damage while cutting their speed. Pretty nice. You can remove their screens. You can pivot, which is very important. As we get into some sets and how Zapdos comes together, a lot of it involves choicing yourself and pivoting out when you're not in the best position. But this is a good offensive move pool, but this is a mon with good defensive stats too. And so you can threaten the offense, but sometimes just go for a taunt, shut down a Trick Room, sometimes set up. With Bulk Up is a pretty strong setup move. Quick Guard to block some fake outs. Surprisingly, it has Light Screen. I have no idea why, but that can be situationally good. And then Substitute. A more defensively oriented Zapdos with Sub and Bulk Up, really good. It has no double weaknesses. It's got solid defensive. defenses, you can use it this way. So the threat of destroying something with close combat or setting up, it's pretty difficult to address both of them. So Zapdos's roles are kamikaze attacker. So with a Scarf, with a Choice Band, with a Life Orb, this mon is incredibly powerful with 125 attack, with 120 base power moves, 100% accuracy, just really reliable wrecking ball. But knowing that it has these dual speeds, the more offensive Zapdoses have very few answers, but the bulky Gapdoses can really catch you by surprise as well. With Assault Vest, lives a lot of hits that would be threatening a no-co against most mons, but just not against Gapdos. With the Berry, Zapdos has a fair amount of longevity. With setup, right? With bulk up and sub. And I haven't even talked about its ability. It's an excellent ability. Defiant removes a number of options that you want to use in Draft League, and that's a really good asset to have, because even if it doesn't come to the match in team building, it might discourage people from bringing Snarls, Icy Wind, Electro Web, Charm. All of these moves are countered by a Defiant mon. And so talking about that tech, right? The Taunt, the Quick Guards, you just need one of them, right? Amidst all your massive attack power, which can always be accomplished with 1 or 2 attacks, you can usually fit on a Taunt or a Quick Guard, or a Protect, more likely. But this is a mon that can just outnumber you. How privileged is this mon to have all of these great stats? This is a blatantly unbalanced game. Luckily, lots of mons have uses, even if they don't have the best stats, and some mons are just better in that department. But this is a privileged mon, better than 97% of mons in terms of total stats. And a lot of these, like the legendaries, the ones with this top tier stat totals, like some of them are just bad. Like they have Ice type, and that makes Articuno bad. Like some of them are just not as well optimized. Like Moltres has just like 2 pretty strong attack stats, but like you're just going to use one of them. So Zapdos is just a pretty optimized legendary that just raw outnumbers a lot of Pokemon. In fact, Zapdos is even an optimization on the original Zapdos. So Zapdos, a great Pokemon. I think everyone recognizes it, and I'm surprised that it's generally costs a little bit more in Draft League pricing than Gapdos, because that stab combination is resisted by a lot more Pokemon, every single electric type for the most part, and its best stab moves are 90 power and 110 power with low accuracy. Like those are its best moves, and they're good moves, but nothing beats 120 power, 100 accuracy, and better overall coverage. So Zapdos hits harder and more reliably, and they even optimize its stats a little bit. So Zapdos had the 90 in attack and an 85 in defense, and they just flipped that. So you're not going to use your special attack as Zapdos. There's just no reason. So now it has straight 90s in the defenses, which is even better. So on the Draftables, I've generally gone one level above the calcs. I want to talk more about strategy than particular matchups or anything, but I picked a few representative matchups just to show that most of the mons that think they can beat Gapdos can't, or at least they can't if you bring the right items, and that's why mix-ups with your items are very, very important for Gapdos. So mons that would be insanely powerful against Gapdos, one of the strongest attackers with a stab super effective move. Zapdos is faster than most Pokemon, and that's just a raw OHKO with a close combat. Like, even if it was max defense, right, you could run your Life Orb, and just knowing that you totally crush most mons slower than Gapdos, this is like the strongest Choice Band boosted priority move out there, and Zapdos is living, right? This did a surprising amount of damage, but no priority move is picking up a Zapdos, so you're always getting this one-hit KO on most mons that are weak to Zapdos, even if they would do well against Zapdos offensively. And if you want to go the different route, if you want to put your bulk on your Zapdos, you can just raw live the stab super effective move. So if you bulk up before, then you can even live the Choice Band in Mamoswine. So this is another mon that, at least on the surface, beats Zapdos, right? Redirects attacks away from more valuable partners, crushes Zapdos with a stab, terrain boosted psychic move. But again, Zapdos is faster, just raw Okos it with close combat and a life orb. Like, doesn't even need super effective damage, just removes it from existence. So with most mons, Gapdos either threatens that raw Oko, or it threatens to just pivot out, right? That U-turn. If you were choice scarfed or if you were choice banded. If you're choice banded, you could actually just delete Indeedee with a U-turn, which is kind of nice. Or you can just get out of harm's way, right? You're going first, you're swapping into something that can take the psychic move a lot better, and you're dealing over half damage just for fun. So you're going to start to see this pattern here where it can either destroy something if they're not bulky enough, or it can at least safely live the hit and do good damage in return. So a more defensively oriented Assault Vest Zapdos can live stab super effective moves like it's its job, right? Expanding Force in Psychic Terrain is no joke, but just moderately over just HP on bulk, Zapdos is fine. Like, really, really nice. And so this way you could run a like super bulky Assault Vest Zapdos and know that you can safely play every turn one successfully, right? Because nothing's going to Oko you, or at least no special attackers. So it's just dual speeds here. What's this? This is against Umbreon. Okay, I didn't even bother giving Umbreon a picture because I hate Umbreon. Don't at me. So this is Umbreon, emblematic of a brutal stall Pokemon with incredible defenses, 100 plus in all three defensive stats. But Gapdos destroys it. Max defense Umbreon with the choice band close combat, right? There's virtually nothing out there that Okos an Umbreon. Goodbye, this is a guaranteed Oko on Umbreon. At the same time, you don't even need to target the Umbreon because you're shutting down Umbreon's best tools just by existing, right? You're Defiant, so it can't Snarl, you're resisting its foul play, and so even if you're not going for like a Kamikaze Zapdos, so you can either go for the blow them away turn one, or you can go for the more durable route, and both work well. This is your no attack boost, just Thunderous Kick. You are reliably 2-hit KOing, and you're cutting their defense. So even if it were to try to curse up or to try to Moonlight on you, you're uncursable, unmoonlightable. Like, this is a total shutdown of one of the best defensive Pokemon in the game. And that's the power of offense, right? The power of good stats combined with good typing combined with good moves. Like, that's the perfect storm. And so when you're looking for Mons, if you can't get Gapdos, I have a couple of alternatives at the bottom, but you're going to want Mons with that combination. So this is, I think, just about the worst case scenario. A Mon that's that's faster than Gapdos, that resists both fighting and flying, which are 17 out of all the Pokemon, and stab super effective, right? So in that case, it seems like it's a death matchup where you shouldn't even bring the Gapdos. But like, even then, Gapdos can do solid damage, right? It can Scarf ahead of the Tapu Koko and get a 2-hit KO. Or it can Assault Vest up and live. Choice Specs Tapu Koko Thunderbolt in Electric Terrain, just completely ridiculous bulk. Supplemented by the Assault Vest. So you can live the hit and then Stomping Tantrum. You can pick up the Koko from half health with a Scarf Stomping Tantrum. So you're just about never, like, if you were to try to switch in Tapu Koko, like turn one you get the lead wrong and Zapdos is terrifying you, then you try to swap in Tapu Koko, I would be surprised if a choice banded close combat, even resisted, didn't do half damage, right? So there's just nothing that really beats Zapdos confidently. So how to beat Zapdos? We hinted about it with Tapu Koko. You need Mons that are faster than Zapdos. You need multiple Mons that resist at least one of its stabs without being weak to the other. So it's in particular these types, right? Ghost to be immune to fighting moves, and then these to be good against flying. Or, the mix of them things. But knowing that you can't intimidate the Zapdos because you're just going to give it Defiant boosts, the best ways to handle its offensive output is Burns and Reflect. Zapdos is unfortunately weak to the speed control moves. Now, it shuts those down in theory, right, because they trigger its Defiant, but if you plan out a specific double up, right, E-Webs into Icicle Crash, or Icy Wind into Dazzling Gleam, maybe, or Icy Wind into Play Rough, right, because if you were doing two special attacks, then, Zapdos lives both of them with the Assault Vest, and now it is Defiant and very strong. So you're going to need some specific combinations of Pokemon to beat Zapdos, but also Zapdos can have partners, so not a lot of reliable paths to victory here. But your own choice Scarfers, right? All of your Mons that can't outspeed Zapdos still have the potential to catch it off guard with the Choice Scarf. A Scarf Thunderbolt, a Scarf, Brave Bird from a Mon that wouldn't otherwise outspeed Zapdos can be pretty good. And then knowing that Zapdos either OHKOs you with a Choice Band or does a ton of damage, most Mons can just decide not to live. There's no way I can live all of the possible things that Zapdos is going to throw at me, so I'm just going to live on 1 HP and just deal a ton of damage back. That's honestly the best you can do, is just trade with Zapdos a lot of the time. Just try to live with 1 health and then hit it right back. So I've talked about Zapdos as a dual speed offensive Mon, how the Life Orbs and the Choice Bands and the Scarfs make it super aggressive, and that in terms of pace, make it a fast-paced Mon. But that mix-up is very important, right? If you're always going to be the kamikaze, then they just redirect the attack, they fake you out. There are ways to deal with a Mon that's always attacking, but if it might substitute on you, if it might bulk up, if it might taunt your Trick Room or taunt your own setup, if it quick guards your fake out, these are the tools to make Zapdos live a little. It has the good defenses and you can really use it. And so you have to be mixing up both of these to get maximum value out of an offensive Pokemon like Zapdos. I think I'm going to just share this replay in the description rather than go over it here in the interest of time. But this was a match in which I was totally caught off guard by a Choice Scarf Zapdos. This is a player that had never beaten me in Draft League before, but essentially beat me in team building, right? I managed to squeeze out a game based on just perfect switches into Zapdos' moves, but as soon as I realized it had a Scarf, right, it was an instant delete on Stakataka. Hydreigon outsped the third fastest Pokemon, Pheromosa, with the Choice Scarf, deleted Gourgeist with Brave Bird, and even the thing that is supposedly good against against Zapdos, which is Raikou, it outsped with the Choice Scarf, and then could 2-hit KO with close combat. So there was essentially nothing I could do. I was just very behind, entirely based on the power of Gapdos and its mix-ups, right? I was prepared to live a Life Orb Zapdos hit, but I was not prepared to get outsped by a Choice Scarf Zapdos. And it's just, the mix-ups are super important, so I encourage you to check out that match. Zapdos has been overshadowed by Dynamax because it loses to Max Airstream, the Max move, and it doesn't do particularly great against other flying Pokemon. So in theory, it's got its own Airstreams. There are more Max Wormwoods with Trigger Defiant, and it does have Steel and Ground moves, which can be good Max moves, but the problem is other Max Airstream Mons have always been the bane of Zapdos' existence, which is why I think it's still slept on even as we move away from Dynamax. But it doesn't get to use its strong stab, right? I don't really want to use a Max Knuckle. I want to use a close combat. Max Airstream is barely stronger than Brave Bird. And then you can't use some of its utility like Bulk Up, Sub, Quick Guard. So I think Zapdos is a Mon that is built for the non-Dynamax era. I'm excited to see what it does next generation. So, building with Zapdos. I think Zapdos is strong on its own. It does not need any help to be a Wrecking Ball, but as the overall playstyle, the overall core you're building, other strong attackers are good because you're deterring Snarls and Intimidates. And so other strong attackers get to be unimpeded. And you can also coach up your own physical attackers, though I find that to be kind of niche, right? Why would Zapdos bother boosting up someone else when it's already strong by itself? If you can do something to swap into a burn, right? I think the burns are coming to beat Gapdos. A nice fire type, physical fire type, so you can't burn it even though it's a strong physical attacker, like Entei would be pretty good with Gapdos. Lightning Rod beats virtually all of the Pokemon that beat Gapdos. These are the few that have resisted stabs, and they're basically all electric types, which you can redirect with Lightning Rod. or a ground type, right? Ground types are really good because you can Earthquake under a Zapdos, you can Scarf Bulldoze and and make a bulky Zapdos fast as well. Just really good combination there, and of course you're also resisting electric moves that way. Walls. You want to have Zapdos clear the way for your endgame win condition. It destroys the things weak to it, but it also sometimes destroys some of the things not weak to it, right? If you've got a Swampert, then you just destroy the grass Pokemon, and now Swampert wins. But the real credit should be going to Zapdos in that case. But if you close combat away the Umbreon, then your like bulky Psychic type has a lot more fun. So I think the mix-ups are super important in Zapdos. Scarfing it, choice banding it, very important to just win in some cases where it seems like you should lose. And so therefore, you're going to be pivoting with Zapdos, right? You're going to either be U-turning out or you're just going to be hard switching when it's not the time. You just need to clear the way for the few things that can check Zapdos, and then it close combats through the rest of the team. So thinking about defensive switch-ins and type synergy, especially important with Zapdos. So Gapdos has alternatives. I think nothing is strictly better than Gapdos. Everything has a sacrifice. If you're not getting this guy, it's combination of bulk and power and great move pool. But Braviary is pretty similar, right? It's a Defiant Mon, a flying physical attacker, but it is a little bit less bulky, notably slower, doesn't have stab close combats, it's non-stab close combats, so just not hitting as hard. But if you miss out on Gapdos but really want that flying or Defiant Mon, then you can pick up Braviary usually a couple rounds later. Articuno's the special counterpart, the competitive rather than Defiant, and Psychic type and special attacking. Just doesn't hit as hard. Psychic just not as good at offensive typing, but you're trading a lot of that offense for some mixed utility, Tailwind, Trick Room. Thunderous is definitely not as good as a Defiant Mon as Zapdos when we remove Dynamax. So it's loved for its Prankster move pool, and so of course you're not getting that with Zapdos. But as a Defiant Mon, kind of deters and intimidates some of the time, maybe. Como-O is another Mon that people forget about despite it having huge stats, and so it kind of reminds me of Zapdos. You might be able to pick up Como-O later in the game if you miss out on Gapdos. At its core, Zapdos is an offensive Mon. Go fast, hit things, and there are several Mons that do that, right? Urshifu being the fighting type attacker. It's even stronger than Zapdos via Wicked Blow, but it's not as bulky. Mienshao is strong and fast, but gives up a lot on the bulk. Pheromosa gives up all bulk, but it's basically like Choice Scarf Zapdos all the time. Hit things. Like, you can find other Mons that hit things, just maybe Mons that you can't quite bring every week or swing reliably at everything in front of you like Zapdos can. So I think I've made the case that Zapdos is the newest top tier that everyone's about to respect a lot if they don't already. In a non-Dynamax draft league, I think I would take this early rounds, like top 2 or 3 rounds, especially if it's not receiving top tier pricing. On a scale of 1 to 20, I would comfortably play 15 or 16. If this was like 13 for no reason, I would just get it round 1. It's really that good. The combination of offense and durability and great move pool, really, really tough to beat. And I think it exemplifies why offense is so good, right? Because it forces the opponent to make guesses every turn. Can I live the Zapdos? Maybe not. But even if I can I live the Choice Band Zapdos? I don't think I can. Can I outspeed the Zapdos? Maybe not. But even if I can I outspeed the Choice Scarf Zapdos? If I try to play defensively against it, then I'm just letting it bulk up. That threat of offense does not mean you have to use it, right? If you have a Fake Out plus a Zapdos, they're gonna protect, right? Because it's just a deadly turn if you're getting Fake Out into Brave Bird, but I can just start bulking up. I can set a light screen, I can sub, I can get my win cons going. I can threaten the Zapdos while I'm U-turning out with a Trick Room, and then boom, now I've won under Trick Room. So the threat bubble is just incredibly wide. It's mostly attacking, like you should mostly just attack as Zapdos, but the range of attacks and how they hit you and target your weak points is just very, very powerful. Look for strong attackers with 2 strong attacking types. Look for the mons with the high base power moves, getting very important as we move away from Dynamax. And then CACAW, strike fear in your enemies. If you know this reference, great game. Let me know what I've missed. Let me know what you think would be a good topic for future drafter. I was doing so well. And okay, peace. See you next time.